everybody. Welcome to the National Self-Storage Investment Club. I'm Brandon Robinson, one of the founders of the club, and I'm so excited that you guys are here joining us. This morning, we're going to take a little bit of a pivot. So the individuals that were on schedule today, they unfortunately couldn't make it. So we're going to be starting our series on boat and RV storage next week. So we were gonna be doing it this week, but unfortunately they could not make it. So next week we will be kicking off the month of August with all boat and RV storage. So every presenter, every speaker that we have outside of today is going to be presenting on a different aspect of boat and RV storage. So next week we have Eric Neeson confirmed, and he is with Baja Carports. And what they do is they build those canopies and those coverings for covered RV storage and parking. So he'll talk about how you can utilize the covered RV parking on some of your open space to generate revenue. Then we have Devin Beasley. Devin is one of the top RV and storage brokers, if not the top broker for RV and boat storage in the nation. So he'll be talking about just different RV and boat storage opportunities, how you can get into purchasing RV and boat storages, how you can find deals, how you can finance them, things of that nature. And then we have a very long-term friend of mine, Scott Ramser, who he's the owner of RV Storage Depot. His group is one of the largest RV and boat storage operators in the nation. He'll be talking about how to underwrite and how to properly value RV and boat storage, because it is a little bit different, right? Because you're dealing with RV and boat storage that is typically uncovered or covered with canopies. You don't value those the same way that you would value a traditional self-storage that's fully enclosed. So, yeah, very excited to have those folks with us starting next week. But today, what I wanted to go over with you guys is kind of as a follow-up to last week. Last week we had Fernando, and we were talking about raising capital and how to go out and structure deals to find investors. Today, what I want to focus on is showing you guys a pitch deck that I personally used on a deal that I recently raised some money for in Mississippi. So I want to just show you the pitch deck, how it flows, show you the structure of it, and just show you the basic elements of a pitch that you should have in your pitch deck to give you the best chance of raising money. So let me share my screen, and look, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute and ask. All right, let's get this in here. All right, can you guys all see this? Okay. I'll take that take your silence as a yes. So this is a pitch deck that I put together for a deal that my wife and I recently purchased in the city of Macomb, Mississippi. Now, when you're raising money from investors, you don't want to just get a bunch of due diligence items and then send them this big old packet of 100 documents. They're just not going to, investors, they just don't have the time to go through every single profit and loss statement, all the management reports, all the various items that a seller will give you in due diligence. That's your job to do RV and boat. No, John, definitely RV and boat storage are really good. So anyway, as I was saying, you don't want to just send them all the due diligence items that the seller is going to send over to you, because they're just not going to go through hundreds and hundreds of documents, right? That's your job as the person who's the sponsor, the person who's the syndicator, the person that's putting together the deal, and you are the one that's, getting some type of ownership interest for putting together the deal. So it's your job to take all of these documents, these P&Ls, these tax returns, bank statements, occupancy reports. It's your job to take all of that stuff and put it into a format that an investor can read within about a half hour or an hour, and in a format they can understand. So let me go back to sharing the screen. And that's exactly what this is. This pitch deck, this is me pitching a deal to an investor to get them to buy into me, and then also buy into the deal in which I'm raising money for. So this is a deal, Dixie Mini Storage in the city of Macomb. And what I usually like to do is I'll have the name of the property, plus I'll have some type of tagline, or some type of theme that I want to stick into the investor's head. So in this particular deal, my tagline and my theme was buy at $23 a square foot, sell at 45 a foot. And the reason for that, which I'll get into in a moment, is that we bought this property at $23 per square foot in a market where other deals that we personally have bought and that other people have bought were selling for $45 per square foot and above. So always in my pitch decks, I always have a disclaimer. You never want to guarantee anything. You always want to let them know, hey, look, there's a chance that these projections are not correct. There's a chance that you may lose money. You just want to do things like that to, cover your butt, and you don't want to make any type of guarantees. And then as far as the contents in the pitch deck, I would say the main items that you really want to have in the pitch deck is information about yourself, number one, because the person, they're not just buying into the deal, they're buying into you as the one that's going to be managing the deal if it's a syndication, or if they're going to partner with you, they want to make sure that, hey, I have a partner that knows what they're doing, that's coherent, that understands storage, that's going to help take this thing to the next level. Because you can have a great deal that shows, hey, this is a 15% cap rate, 20% cap rate, something crazy. But if the person that's the one you're partnering with is named Bernie Madoff, or someone that people see as a crook, then you're not going to get the investors to buy into that. If the investors think that, oh, you're some type of crook that may take their money, or you may be negligent and lose money, then they're not gonna buy into your deal. So first thing you want to do is you want to sell them on you, who you are, what you do, why you're qualified to partner with them or receive their money for investment. You also want to give them an overview of the region, where it is that you're buying the property, where it is that you're buying this property, and why is this a good place to invest. You also want to give some information about the about the deal itself. So, what are the particulars? What's the value add? Why is it that we should buy this deal as opposed to something else that could potentially make us more money? And then you also want to have some type of exit strategy showing, hey, this is how you're going to get your money out of this deal. This is how you, in addition to getting your quarterly dividends or your quarterly interest payments on your money, how are you going to get back your principal investment? Whether it's 50,000, 100,000, like how are you getting that back? Are we going to sell this property in 5 to 7 years and repay you back your principal plus some return on top of that? Are we going to do a cash out refi? Am I going to bring in another investor to buy you out? You want to, those are kind of the key elements you want to have. Information about yourself, information about the area where you're investing, information about the property, and then also your exit strategy. Hey Scott, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Pretty good. How you been?
Good, good, good. Any questions on that before I continue? And just so you guys are aware, so with this pitch deck, This pitch deck is not just limited to deals that you are looking to buy, a deal that you have in escrow and you're looking to raise funds to complete the purchase. This could also be if you own the deal and you're looking to raise equity or bring in a partner because you want to pull some of your money out of the deal. So if you own something and you don't want to do a refi with a lender and you want to go and raise private capital for someone, you can put together a pitch deck just like this for your own deal as well. So getting into it, again, like I said, the first thing that you want to have is information about yourself. And you don't want to have this big long, it's not an autobiography where, you have everything about your entire life from when you were born to when you were married, etc. You just want to have some kind of high level snapshots about yourself. So on the pitch deck that I use, I'll have information about, my time in brokerage, right? I've been a real estate broker selling storages since 2007. So, I want to highlight the fact that, hey, I've sold over $300 million in self-storage throughout my career. Myself and my wife, we own drop zone storage centers where we have 12 locations throughout Mississippi and Louisiana. Again, just building credibility with that investor, showing them why you are a good person to either partner with if you're doing a partnership or a joint venture, or you're someone that is responsible enough to manage their money. Put in, my results. Hey, 17 years experience. We've raised NOI at our facilities, trusted leader in self-storage. And then you want to have some, personal items about yourself so that way that investor can relate to you as a person, right? Or are you married? How long have you been married? Do you have kids? Have some pictures of your kids, you and your wife and your kids, or your spouse and your kids out, having a good time. You want to make this personable, and you want to get that investor to relate to you on the human level as well, and not just, look at it as look at you, just look at the numbers. And then also, you getting personal and talking about things such as, hey, I've been married to my spouse for 40, 50 years, and we have 5 children that are all grown and that are successful in life. That also speaks to, you having responsibility, right? You're able to raise multiple children and see them grow up. It shows that, hey, if you're responsible with children, then you probably most likely are responsible over your investments. And then if you're someone that's been married for a long time, then that also shows, what? This person has longevity. They're not just jumping from one place to another. Shows longevity and consistency. So have information about that. If you have some type of background in business or whatever your background is, just find some highlights about your background that is applicable to what it is that you're doing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be storage. Like I understand that a lot of, like, some of you guys, you don't come from a background of storage, but you own other types of real estate. Talk about that. Scott here on this call, he owns a resort out in California. He can talk about, the resort that he owns in California and the management of that. Or if you're a software engineer or you got some type of sales experience, something that's, related to you running a business and being responsible and getting results. So I'll have things in here for, different reviews. I'm gonna Google my business page, professional references as well. Again, if you're someone that does not have references in storage, hey, you can have references in anything. Maybe you sell shoes, you sell cars, you sell, I don't know. There has to be somebody in some type, and wherever it is, whatever industry that you work in, that can vouch for you. And it does not have to necessarily be someone that owns storage. Just someone that can show this potential investor that, hey, this person is a trustworthy person. They're credible, and they're someone that is worthy of receiving my investment or worthy of me partnering with them to purchase an investment. And then if you own storages, or if you own, it doesn't have to necessarily be storages. If you own real estate, you also have a list of your portfolio. I like to include the portfolio here on my pitch decks, so that way investors can see that I'm someone that's experienced in this. I'm not a rookie. I'm not new to doing this. I've done this myself, and I've also done this with partners multiple times in the past. So I just have a list of storage assets that you own or other real estate that you own that has that's operating successfully. Any questions on that, guys, before I continue?
None so far.
Okay. So, John, you said starting out, no experience in real estate, was a truck driver. Hey, you know what? Put that on there. I mean, I'm sure you have some clients that you've driven for, or a company that you've driven for, that you've done a good job. You've done a good job for them. You can use that and leverage that as your experience. Doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. You just want to show people that, hey, I'm credible and I'm responsible. And usually, if you're credible and you're responsible in one area, that typically will translate over to something else. So me being successful in storage, if I decided to give up storage and go sell, I don't know, go sell homes or something else, that same drive and the same character, same traits that made me successful in storage, it'll help me be successful in selling homes or driving trucks or, doing something. Some of this other stuff, I will tell you guys, some of these other slides that I'm going to get into, these are things that I personally like to add. You don't necessarily need to add this to your pitch deck, but I like to give my potential investors probably too much information because I don't want them having any questions. I want them to know exactly who I am, what I'm about, and what it is that I'm looking to do with their money. So I like to include just our buy box so that way investors can see, okay, what it is, what type of properties that we like to buy, where we're looking to buy, and see some of our criteria. Now, what I will tell you, let me come off of share. What I will tell you guys is this. One of our goals is to buy stuff within a 3-hour radius of the New Orleans airport. So if you look at all the deals that we own outside of California, right? Everything that we own outside of California, our 12 facilities, are all within a 3-hour radius of the New Orleans airport. This is New Orleans right here. We have a facility in Laplace, which is 20 minutes from the New Orleans airport. We're here, then up here in Macomb, about an hour and a half. We have 5 facilities here in Brookhaven, which is about 30 minutes north of Macomb. And then about an hour and a half to the southeast of Brookhaven, we own another 5 facilities, soon to be 6. So as you guys are looking to build a portfolio, I would say with your first 10, try to find them all within about a 3-hour radius of one another. It just makes it easier when it comes to, you flying out to visit the sites. Because I go out and I fly out on a quarterly basis to visit our sites, and I fly into New Orleans. I got some family member, my family on my mom's side is from New Orleans. So I fly in, I see my family, and then I just make my rounds. Drive here to this, start here at point A, go to point B. From point B, I go here to Brookhaven, and then in Brookhaven, meet with the managers, check on the sites, spend the night there. Next day, drive over here to Hattiesburg. So it just helps to reduce my costs when I own properties that are all within a 3-hour radius of one another. Also, I do a lot of sharing of resources and sharing of management, sharing of contractors where, sometimes I'll have some folks from that work my Hattiesburg sites come out to Brookhaven and vice versa. So as you guys are thinking about, okay, where am I going to start building my portfolio? really try to hone in on a certain region because it's more cost effective. You get scale. And then also when it comes time for us to resell, which, our long-term goal is 5 to 7 years, build a portfolio of about 30 properties within this 3-hour radius of New Orleans, and then sell it to some institutional group. It makes it a lot easier for an investor to buy a package deal that's all within the same radius, as opposed to, you have a facility in Florida and then one in Texas and another one in Illinois and then another one in New York. It's just, you're just too far spread. You're just spread a little bit too thin. So, again, wherever it is that you guys are going to start your portfolio, try to buy within that same radius. And also think about places that you like to visit. If you're going to buy something out of state, like myself and my wife, we're in California, but we frequently go to New Orleans to visit family. And I still have a lot of my family on my mom's side that is in New Orleans. And then also, my grandfather side of the family, they're from over here in Natchez, Mississippi. So, we have a lot of ties to the area and we already go to this area, which is the reason why that's where we decided to build a portfolio. So as you guys are looking to build a portfolio remotely or out of state, think about areas that you know or areas that you frequently visit on a regular basis. It'll just make it, as opposed to choosing some random place that you've never been and don't know anything about. So hopefully that helps you guys. All right, getting back over to this. So again, we have our buy box. And then what I also will have is, if I'm dealing with somebody who is just clueless about storage, they know nothing about storage, they've never invested in storage, never heard of storage. I will have a couple of slides just explaining, hey, the benefits of investing in storage, why it's a good investment, what has been the average return on investment in self-storage over the past 30 years versus other asset types. So I'll have these bullet points and these maps and these graphs that I'll have in my pitch deck, right? I'll also have some information on just facts about the industry. So I'll have 3 slides just talking about, hey, this is what storage is. This is how much revenue is in storage. This is how many storages are in the nation. Uh, I'll have information about the storage customer. Who's the typical storage customer? How far do they travel to rent storage? What's the reason why they rent storage? Just these various things to educate the investor on storage as well. And this is good because not only does this help the investor understand about storage, but it also makes you, as the person putting the deal together, look like you're the expert. And it's like, wow, this person really knows storage. They really know their market. They really study this stuff. And again, if you guys ever need any help with a pitch deck, we do, myself and my team, we do offer our services to help individuals with pitch decks. And I've helped out students of mine that signed up for my, consulting services. We've also helped out people here in the investment club with pitch decks. And we also have helped out individuals that are in escrow to buy one of our properties, and we want them to close on it and raise money. So we'll help them out with a pitch deck as well. So if you guys ever need any help with any of this stuff, please reach out, and we'd be happy to help you out. If it's something that's really quick, that's like a 30-minute Zoom call, I'll do it at no charge. If it's something where you need me to walk you through a lot of things and it's going to be an hour or two, I mean, I might charge you, a fee for that just for my time. But again, I would be willing to help you out. After I've talked about myself, I've given some information about my background, the properties that I've owned, that I've purchased, I've bought. give some facts about self-storage. I then will get into, okay, the area. Uh, the deal that I'm buying is in Mississippi. So first thing I'm tackling on my pitch deck is why the person should invest in me. Like, why would I be a good partner? Second thing I'm tackling is why should they even invest in storage anyway? Why is this a good investment? Then the third thing I tackle is, okay, why is self-storage in this region of the country a good investment? And what I like to do is I like to include some research and some articles about, things that are going on in the region where I'm looking to purchase storage. So in Mississippi, particularly, Mississippi right now is seeing a lot of migration from other states. So there's a lot of people from the West Coast or from the Northeast, mid or in parts of the Midwest where just inflation is hitting people hard, and it's the cost of living is just so high that folks are just leaving those areas. There's a lot of folks that are moving to the South and to the Southeast because the cost of living there is a lot more affordable. And Mississippi is one of those states that's benefiting from this because Mississippi is, it's one of the most affordable states in the nation to purchase real estate, to purchase a home. And that's the reason why you see such a big influx of people going into Mississippi. So I like to highlight that in my pitch deck. So that way the investor can see, oh wow, there's some real potential here. This is the reason why we're looking to buy in Mississippi as opposed to buying in California where prices are, you know, much higher. So I'll highlight things such as the visual capitalist list, which on the visual capitalist list, it talks about how Mississippi now is ranked 15th in the nation in terms of net migration, right? There's more people migrating to Mississippi from other states than there are leaving Mississippi. I'll highlight that. I'll also highlight, different things from the U-Haul growth index. So for those of you guys that might be new to storage, a lot of people in storage follow what's called the U-Haul growth index, which shows the amount of people that are booking one-way U-Hauls to a specific state. So if U-Haul sees that, hey, there's a lot of people booking one-way rentals from California to Mississippi, that's an indicator to U-Haul that, hey, folks are leaving California, moving to Mississippi or other areas. So, you look at Mississippi, it's jumped 18 spots from 39th in the nation to 21st in the nation in terms of net migration on the U-Haul growth index. So, just like to highlight things like that, just to get the investor excited about about the opportunity to buy in this region. I'll also have some stuff in there about the GDP in the state that I'm purchasing. Also, different corporate investment that's going on in that region. And this is stuff where you can, just go on the internet and you can Google, you can go on Chat GPT or Claude and just research, hey, what's going on in the state of Tennessee or the state of Mississippi. And you'll get all these various articles talking about, different corporate investment and what's going on in that state. So one of the things that's going on in Mississippi is you got Elon Musk and other folks that are building these large data centers that's bringing jobs and bringing manufacturing and bringing people to that area. So then, once you hook them, I want to say, right? Because you don't want to start off with the stuff about the deal, numbers and spreadsheets. Like that's some boring stuff that might cause someone to fall asleep or lose interest, right? You want to first capture their interest with telling them about who you are, telling your story, your background, telling them about self-storage, right? Getting them excited about the opportunity to buy self-storage. And then you want to get them excited about the area by showing them various articles and different things that are going on in that specific region. And then once you got them hooked, then that's when you get into talking about the property and the deal itself. So now that I've gone through all that, now I start talking about the deal. And I like to use a lot of bullet points because bullet points are just easier for people to remember. Okay, as opposed to having this big long paragraph as though I'm writing a college thesis. I just like to have the kind of key bullet points. Hey, we're buying this for 275,000. We're buying it at a price of $23 per square foot, and all the comparable properties are selling for $40 to $58 per square foot. So that right there is showing, hey, we have instant equity once we buy this property. Um, this was a property that we bought off market from an owner that was, just tired of running it. And, it showed that they were tired of running it because they didn't even have a sign up, which had a number or a website where people can go to rent units. And, they stayed at 60 to 70% occupancy without even having a sign, without advertising, without being on Google, just based off of word of mouth. So, we saw that as a great opportunity to come in and automate the place, get set up with Google, get set up with SEO, get a website set up, and then, we can use that to increase demand, increase occupancy. So just have a snapshot of the deal itself. And another thing I like to do is a um, I like to have a video walkthrough of the property because for my investors, all of them are in California. We're all based out of LA, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside. We're all in Southern California, and a lot of them, have never went to the site. So I like to use a service, and I'm going to put it here on the screen. Let me share this. So this is a website that's called droners.io, and I'll put this also in the chat. And what this does is you can go to this site and you can post a bid to drone operators around the country. So let's say I wanted to get some drone work done in Tennessee. I can go onto this site and I can post the address and the type of work that I want. I want drone video and drone photos. And in this website, it will send a notification to drone photographers that are signed up with this site, and they can bid on the work. So usually we'll put an address in, we'll we'll send out the bid, and we'll get about 15 to 20 people that will each bid to go out and provide us with drone video and drone footage, so that way we can then create a presentation. And let me share with you guys my screen so I can show you what exactly that looks like.
How much is it?
What were you asking? Oh, if you guys are interested in the price, that's probably what you guys would probably ask is, okay, so how much does it cost, or what's typically the cost of this? It's usually between $100 to $300 is what a typical drone photographer would charge you to go out and take photos and video of your property. Now, that is assuming that they don't have to edit the video. If you need them to do video editing, then they might charge you another $100 or $200. So, um, yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're someone that knows how to edit video, or if you have someone that can edit the video for you, that's a little bit cheaper. If you need someone to put together a video, then it's going to be a little bit more expensive with them. So here, I'll let this play. And I like to have some nice music with it as well. Some nice kind of upbeat music. And what this is doing is this is now giving the investor a, an in-person kind of live view of this asset. So they can see the property, they see what's around it. You put some of these highlights and some of these captions in the property as well, or not in the property, but some of the highlights about the property into the video as well. And just gives them a different look and a different feel as opposed to looking only at some still images. So, any questions on this, guys, before I continue? Let's see if this has the photo of the the broken sign. I don't think I have it in this video. Yeah, no, it's not in that one. So anyway, and with the drone video, what I'll do is I'll have an image in here, and I'll have it to where all the investor has to do is just click on the image, and then the video will play.
Okay.
Then you have just a property overview that, again, this has some, you don't want to go too crazy, but just have a couple paragraphs just explaining the deal, explaining where it's at, the region, etc. And this is something I like to have in here too, is just why this deal wins. And again, I like to have a lot of bullet points because people are going to remember the bullet points more so than they're going to remember this big long paragraph. So like to have the bullet points of, hey, why is this deal a winner? Why should we buy it? Hey, we're buying it below market. There's room to expand. As you guys can see from this image, we have this big vacant area right here where we can add another 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of storage. So room to expand. We have massive upside. The location is great. We're right, with this location that we're at, we're right down the street from the largest medical center in the area. We're down the street from the largest bank in the county, and we're also right around single family homes and retail and other things that are going to attract people to that area, because you want to buy in an area where you're going to get a lot of drive-by traffic. Areas where folks are just going to naturally drive by your facility, and then driving by your facility, you have free marketing to these folks on a daily basis. So, local area, then I have the property profile, which again, this gets into more of the particulars on the deal, what price we're buying it for, what's the current cap rate at the current price, what's the price per foot, how many enclosed square feet of storage do we have here at this facility, the unit count, physical occupancy, just all the statistics about the deal. And then this is some of the boring stuff we get into, that there are some investors that like to know demographics in the area. So I would encourage you, if you're putting together a pitch deck, just have some demographics about the area, usually within a 3 to 5 mile radius. And to get demographics, we use a website called Analyst Pro, but with the way that AI is right now, I had a client who, I helped them out with their pitch deck, and they just went on Chat GPT and Claude and put in the address of the location that they were buying and asked for demographics within a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius, and then Chat GPT just spit out a demographic report. So you don't necessarily need to go and pay for some of this information if you already have, Chat GPT or Claude. Like to have traffic count because, again, you want to show, hey, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of
Being a
vehicles that are
rooftop system
driving
built on a lot
driving
per
in this
year.
area. And then obviously you want to have photos. You want to, the photos are really good and really key. So, it is worth the money to pay the 100 to $300 to a drone operator to go out and get some nice professional quality videos because if you're showing an investor some photos and they're from Google Earth and they look, a little bit sketchy, then that they're gonna you're gonna lose a little bit of credibility in the deal. So, invest the money, pay the 1 to 300 bucks to go out and hire a drone operator and get some nice, good quality photos. So have some aerial photos, some up close photos. Just again, you want to show the property well. And this property really did show well. And for what we paid for it, I mean, we really got a good deal because to rebuild this type of structure in that area, it'd cost you $50 a square foot just to rebuild metal and steel structure in that area. And that's not including the land, right? We bought for $23 per rentable square foot, and that included not just the building, it also included the land and the dirt underneath it. Aerial photos, maps. Then I also like to have this aerial view where it gives you a sense of, okay, what is around this property? You want to show your investors not just the property, but you want to show them the neighborhood around the property because, last thing you want to do is buy a nice facility, but you're in a terrible neighborhood or you're in an area where there's not a whole lot of population right around your storage and, that's going to affect your occupancy. So like to outline the subject property and then just show, hey, what's around here? We got, military that's right next door. We have Pike National Bank. We have the largest medical center in that region that's, right down the street. And then we have, multiple medical office buildings, right? All of this, these are all things that, for one, it draws and attracts people into that area. So that way, people will just naturally see your storage facility as they're driving by, conducting their business. But also, these are also potential tenants that we can pull from because doctors and dentists and people in the medical profession, they have a certain time period where they have to store records. You have to store records for, in most cases, at least 3 years. So they need a place to store these records. And, what better place to advertise our storage than to people that need to store records for at least 3 years? And then if you own storages nearby, highlight the fact that, hey, we already own a portfolio of storages that's within driving distance to this facility. So with this particular property that we're purchasing, we have 5 facilities that are 25 minutes north. Again, that speaks to our ability to be able to manage this property effectively and utilize our staff here at the Brookhaven sites to manage the Macomb sites. And if you have things like surveys or parcel maps, I like to include that. I tend to give investors a little bit more information than what they need. Again, the reason why I like to do that personally is because I don't want them having any questions after reviewing my pitch deck, right? Um, and typically the way it goes, before I even get to the point of using my pitch deck, I will typically send them like some type of flyer or some type of email just with bullet points, such as, hey, new potential or investment opportunity in Macomb, Mississippi, $23 per square foot, X amount, X price, X cap rate, X amount of return on investment. Like I'll first start off with just some type of flyer or some type of email just to get their initial interest. And then after I got their initial interest and they contact me and via email or they call me, hey, yeah, Brandon, I saw your email. That deal looks pretty good. I'm interested. then from there is when I'll set up a Zoom call with them. And at the Zoom call, I'm just giving them kind of high level overview about the property. And then after I give them a high level overview, I then will send them the pitch deck, and then I'll send them a link with the due diligence information in case they wanted to dig into the financial records, the bank statements, tax returns, and just verify that those financial records match up to what it is that I'm projecting in my investment uh, pitch deck. So then with this deal, since it has some expansion potential, I want to highlight that. And I want to take some, do something and take some measurements so that way I can show investors, hey, look, we have almost 6,000 square feet of vacant land that we can use to build on. We can put up maybe 3 to 4,000 square feet of portable shipping containers. Or maybe we just add a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot indoor climate control building. Something, I like to highlight the fact that, hey, this is additional value add. So on top of us buying this property at such a low price per square foot and also having some room to increase revenue, we also have room to increase the size of the facility as well. I also like to show the flood zone map because the flood zone, this is gonna have an impact on your insurance, right? If you're in the flood zone, then your insurance could potentially double. Um, so what I like to do is use this website right here, and this is a free website that you can use. I'll put this in the chat. But with this website, you can go to with this website, you can put in any address. Matter of fact, here, let me show you guys. I'll give you a sample of it. So this is the address right here. Not the address. This is the website here. And let me just put in, you can put in any address in the nation. And then this will show you, it'll give you a close up, and this will show you whether or not that address is in the flood zone or if it's not. Now, if you don't see any water right here, you're good. You're not in the flood zone. But if you have a situation like this is one of my facilities that like a small portion of it is in the flood zone. So just this driveway and part of this building right here is in the flood zone. So because I had this little small sliver in the flood zone, I now was required to get flood insurance for this particular property. And especially if you're buying deals in the southeast where, you do have floods, you do have hurricanes, your investors may want to know, okay, is this property in the flood zone or is it not in the flood zone?
What about fire zones?
Fires, that is a great question. I have not I'm not sure if there is a website for fire. I'm sure there is. I've just never used it because the stuff that we bought in the south, there usually is no fire zone anywhere in the southeast. Uh, but if you're in California, Arizona, Nevada, yeah, there are fire zones.
Especially with the outbreak in Washington and Oregon states.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm sure there is a website for that. If anyone has that information, if you have a website that you use to see if an address is in the fire zone, please put it in the chat or email it to me, and I'll share it with the group. All right, so getting back. And then some, and then the rest of this stuff is more of it's a spreadsheet data type stuff, right? So, and again, this is the stuff that you don't want to lead with this. You want to lead with the exciting stuff, who you are, what you do, what you're about, right? Um, you want to lead with the information about the area, information about storage, and then get into all this stuff once you've captured their attention. Uh, Also, you may need to get on a Zoom call with them to go over some of this stuff, right? I've done it many times where I've sent an investor a pitch deck, and then I've scheduled a Zoom call with them to just go over this information, kind of like I'm going over with you guys, but just in a little bit more detail, because I want them to have a full understanding of what it is that they're looking at and what it is that they're investing in. Then I definitely want to have a rental survey so you can see and show your investors how your facility stacks up to other facilities in terms of rates. So with this particular site, when you look at the rents for, the 10 by 10s and the 10 by 15s, 10 by 20s, I mean, they are significantly less than everyone else around, which is a big plus because now this shows our investors how we're going to increase the revenue and increase the value of the facility because we're going to come in and raise these rates and still be at a level, we can raise rates on these at this facility 20% and still be below the market and not have to worry about people, leaving our facility in droves to go to our competitors. This is just the unit mix, and you want to have information about your units, the square footage, the rates, and the potential, monthly income if all the units were 100% occupied. You want to have information about I have information about the price that we have it under contract at. And, what are the returns and what's the cap rate at the current contract price? Well, the current contract price, the cap rate is only 5.4%, which is that's very low for this region where we're buying this property. But the upside is that, we're buying a 5.4% cap rate on the property that's only $23 per square foot, and it's only 70% occupied. So you want to have that. You also want to have just the income and expenses for not just the current income and expenses, because the seller being local, his expenses were a lot less than our expenses. So, we had to add expenses for, management and for Wi-Fi, offsite management, our call center. So that's the reason why you look at his expenses here for 2024 and 2025, but then you see this big increase in expenses for us for this year going into next year. And then you also want to have projections for not just currently, but okay, projections through your exit period. So we're looking at holding on to this for 5 years, which would put us into 2031. So, I like to give my investors projections of, okay, where are we going to be here for our first year? All right. And then where are we going to be in 2027? And then the years following that, all the way up until we exit the property in 2031. And then as far as just the projections, like I like to be a little bit more conservative on the projections because it's always better to underpromise and overdeliver. So I like to state, yeah, we're going to be at a 39,000 in revenue, when really I know it's very possible for us to be at 45 or 50,000 in revenue. I kind of like to downplay it, because you want to manage your investors' expectations. You don't want to set the bar too high and then you fall a little short, and now the investors are looking at you as though you've made a mistake or you've done something wrong or your projections are just not real. It's better for you to set the bar low and then go over and above that bar. And now your investors are looking at you as though you're some type of genius and they can't wait to give you money for the next investment. And that's big, guys, because the investor that invested in this deal, he's someone that invested in previous deals with us and had success, had is getting a good return. So as you start doing this and you start getting investors, or whether they're an investor or a partner, you start having positive results, it makes it that much easier to get money for your next deal. I mean, sometimes I have these folks, like they'll call me and they'll ask if I have any deals available because, they got some money that they need to invest. So if you manage their expectations right and you always are being conservative to the point where you're exceeding their expectations, then you'll get to a point where they'll start calling you to give you their money to invest. And then I also like to have like a year 5 exit valuation. So when we exit in 2031, what price am I projecting that we're going to sell this place at? And I'm projecting, 540,000, which again, that is setting the bar low, okay? Because that's only 45 bucks a square foot, and properties right now in that region are selling for 45 bucks a foot. So 5 years from now, with inflation and with increasing, increase in the revenue, hopefully, the market increases, we should be able to sell it for a lot more than, 45 or 46 bucks a square foot. Any questions so far?
Have you ever used feasibility studies in your pitch deck?
I have not. I mean, I have a great friend and client, Bob Copper, who he does feasibility studies. But I have not used them in my pitch deck because with the information I put into the pitch deck, some of that stuff is what would be in the feasibility study. So instead of me paying, Bob a couple $1,000s to do a feasibility study on an existing asset, I'll just, I know how to go and find the information. I'll just put it together myself. It wouldn't be as in depth as his, obviously, but a lot of the stuff that he would have that a feasibility study would have, I put it into my pitch deck, such as rate comps, sales comps, demographics, things like that. I would use a feasibility study if I'm doing a new build. So if I'm doing a development deal, then that's when I would pay the money to get a feasibility study done. And then like to have just the numbers, just showing the investors, all right, you put in this amount of money, this is what you can expect to get in your return for year 1, year 2, year 3. This is our distribution. These are our cash flows. Um, I like to put in here, what amount of equity am I going to be entitled to for putting a deal together, right? Because for you guys putting a deal together as a sponsor or as a managing member, there should be some type of consideration that you receive, whether it's an acquisition fee or whether it's a percentage of ownership. Like there's something that you should get for your time and your effort in putting this deal together. Then I like to include, net present value and internal rate of return. And again, this is something that I personally like to put together just because, again, I like to give my investors more information than what they need, just so that way they have a full understanding and they leave this pitch deck without having any question marks about, what's going on or what they can expect. And this is all stuff, guys. You can use Chat GPT for this, to plug in numbers and find net present value, internal rate of return. So don't think that you have to be some type of wizard or have some type of great financial calculator. I mean, this is all stuff that you can use ChatGPT to do. You can even use ChatGPT to create a pitch deck. We one of my agents here, apprentice, he was helping an investor create a pitch deck, and they fed he fed AI the information, but then he used Chat GPT and Claude to create the format of the pitch deck. So if you have financial information and you're not necessarily skilled with PowerPoint or Excel, and you don't know how to format and make stuff look pretty, you can put pictures, you can put documents into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT or Claude. Claude actually would be better. Claude's pitch decks are a little bit more professional. You can put it into Claude and ask Claude to generate a pitch deck based off the information that you put into the queue. And then here's some sales comparables. So this is some of the stuff I was talking about, John, and that this type of stuff would be in a feasibility study. But since I'm pretty active in the market, I know what stuff is selling for, because all these deals that you see in the sales comparables, I either bought them or they were presented to me and I passed and somebody else bought them. So I was in the know in terms of what they sold for per square foot. And then I'm highlighting the fact that all of these comparables that have sold, they've all sold for an average of 45 per foot while we're in escrow. And we've already closed this, but we were in escrow at the time to buy this deal for just $23 per square foot. And then these last couple slides, I got 3 more slides left. I just like to talk about the value add improvements that we're going to do to the site, so that way, again, the investor has a clear understanding of what it is that we're going to do to increase the revenue and increase the value of this property. So we're going to get some new signage and banners. We're going to install what we have already. We've installed easy storage solutions software. We've put in a website with online rentals. Uh, Tenants can pay now with their credit card, because under the old ownership, tenants had to pay. They had to pay in cash, or they had to pay in check, which was an inconvenience for them because they had to physically go to the owner's office to pay their bill. Whereas now we have them set up to where they can just go to the website, dropzonewhitestreet.com, and they can pay their bill online. Local business outreach, putting in the call center, expanding the facility at some point, also adding tenant insurance, because again, with this site, there was no tenant insurance revenue. So now that's an extra $7 per unit that I can make off of offering tenant insurance, because we use Storable for tenant insurance. They charge $12 a month for their lowest policy, and we get to keep $7 out of that 12. And then if there's any type of CapEx, I like to put in the CapEx as well as an estimate that I received on what the cost will be for the CapEx. So we plan to do to put down some asphalt at this site, which that's going to be 25 grand. At some point, we're going to put in a fence and an automatic gate, 15 grand. And then I also like to mention the ones that are urgent or the ones that are not so urgent. So with the asphalt, that's not necessarily very urgent, because this place has had tenants for a long time that have paid money without having any type of asphalt. And the same with the fence. They've paid money without having a fence with an automatic gate and keypad. So it's not something that's urgent, but once we go to resell it, this is going to help our resale value as we have a nice paved facility with an automatic gate and a keypad entry. And then some of these expenditures, these are some of the ones that, okay, we need to tackle right away. So getting the new signage in, cutting some of the trees and some of the brush that's there, there along the back of the building, because some of the trees and the leaves are falling onto, well, not the trees, but a lot of leaves and branches are falling onto the back of the building and it's clogging up the gutters. So we need to cut that out. The building repairs is really not much, but there's some areas where we need to, paint or do some type of renovation to the buildings. Get pressure washing, and then also getting our Da Vinci locks, which is these are the locks that we use on our vacant units, so that way we don't have people squatting on units. And then our last slide, I just have information about the deal structure. So, hey, we're gonna open up a new single purpose LLC, and I'm gonna be the managing member. I get 50% of the equity. Even before I put in my own funds, I get 15% right off the top just for putting the deal together. And then I'll have some extra language such as, well, hey, look, if I beat expectations and the property doubles in value or it exceeds my expectations, then I get an additional 10% or so in equity. So these are things that you can put, that you can structure into your deals as well, where okay, maybe you get 10 or 20% of the equity starting out, but if you really do a good job and you are giving investors back even more of a return than you had initially anticipated, there should be something in it for you for doing that. Let them know, hey, distributions are paid quarterly. Um, Also, if there's any type of acquisition fees, property management fees. So we manage the property, so we get 4% of the gross revenue for property management. And then when it does come time to sell, because I'm a licensed broker, I put in there we agree that I'm going to sell the property. I'm going to be the listing broker to sell it and get a 6% commission. And then that's it. I'm not, and in using the pitch deck, like I've not had anyone who has I've never had a deal where I was not able to raise any money. I have had deals where we passed on them because we saw some stuff in escrow or in due diligence where it just wasn't a good fit. But using this pitch deck and really telling the story about myself, the story about the area, and telling the story about the property, that's what gets investors to commit and say, yes, I'll put up $100,000 for this deal, or yes, I'll partner with you. And the worst thing that you can do is to just blindly send them a big stack of documents and not actually have a story behind it. So hopefully that helps you guys out. I will put this, if it's not already, this will be on the Investor Club portal. So if you guys need a pitch deck if you need a template for a pitch deck that you want to use, this will be on the Investor Club portal. If you guys are not, most of you guys are, but if there's any of you guys out there that are not members of the investment club, you guys can sign up, selfstorageinvestmentclub.com, $29 a month. And with that $29 a month, that gets you access to all of our meetings, all of our special workshops, gets you access to our online portal where we have our training portal, we have our vendor portal, we also have our document portal, which has purchase agreements, letters of intents, operating agreements, just things that you can use for doing deals. So With that being said, is there anyone that has any questions?
I just have one for you real quick, and you can call me later on it. I was just wondering if the one you sent.
Oh, we lost you, Scott. Where'd you go? Hey, Scott, I think we lost you. Your
Are you
Wi-Fi.
there?
We're here now. Yep, we're here.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if the deal in Pensacola that you sent me while I was on vacation is still available.
I will check. I'll
Okay,
check.
perfect.
Yeah, I thought about, yeah, when I saw that deal, I saw it was not far from yours, so that made me yeah, that made me send it over to you.
Yeah, you sent it over to me. I wanted a little bit more info, but I was on vacation. It kind of slipped my mind, but I'm back now.
Okay. All right, let me check in on that and see. I think that was let me see. It's the one for 350,000, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay. All right. I'll check in with that broker and I'll yeah, I'll reach out to you.
perfect. Sounds good.
Cool. Hey Scott, did you get that deal? Did I send you that portfolio that we have in Gainesville, Florida? Did you get that deal?
I did not. I did not see it. You talked about sending it yesterday, but I haven't seen it come through yet.
Okay, let me send that. Did you get my email with Francis Wright's information? He's the lender.
Yeah, great guy. I like him.
Okay.
A
All
lot
right,
in
good.
common.
All right, cool. Just want to is he able to help you out with the refi?
Boundaries. He usually stops at Mobile, but I'm only another 30 miles past Mobile, so he's gonna try to work on it for me.
Okay. If he doesn't work out, let me know because I do have some other folks that I can put you in touch with also.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
No problem. And I'll send you over that information right now on Gainesville.
Yeah, and if it has an address, good, so I can just do a drive by, see what the neighborhood's like.
Yeah, how far are you from, how many hours are you from Gainesville?
Um, 4 or 5.
Okay, so not that's not bad. It'd be a nice
But
little
I
day
go up
trip.
all the time. My brother's in Gadsden, Alabama, so I go up once a month, anyways.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, I'll send that to you. Anyone else? Anyone have any questions, any deals that you're working on that you need assistance with? Anything you need help with?
Hey, Brandon, I might reach out to you on a couple of things that I'm working on.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Any here, let me put you have my I'll put my information in the chat for you so that way you have it.
Yeah, it should be there in the email. But yeah, please send it over.
Is it some stuff that you're looking to purchase?
Yes.
Okay. You're looking to raise
I
any
have
money
that.
for it or
Um, I'm actively raising for something else, but not for the storage deal. It's not still kind of penciled.
okay.
Okay.
All
I
right.
got your information, so I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, reach out. If you don't get me, just shoot me a text and
I'll
we
just send
can
you a text message right away.
yeah, and then we can set up a time either today or tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
We can
No
get on a
worries.
quick Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything you guys need? Any deals you need assistance with? Let's see, where we are. Where can we find if we want to become investor in your debt? I can put you on the list, Byron. So when I do my deals, I don't blast them out publicly. Like I have a list of about 100 individuals that, I've done business with throughout the years I've been in brokerage. So I'll send them an email. Um, Sometimes if I'm buying a deal in the area in the city where I have a deal with another investor, I'll just call them and tell them, hey, look, there's a new opportunity. Are you interested? I'll send you the info. Um, yeah, but no, Byron, if you want, we can get on a Zoom call and I can talk to you and kind of let you know what it is that we do and see if it's a good fit, and then I can put you on that list. But I will tell you that on the deals that we're doing, they are pretty good because I'm not just buying any deal. In order for me as a broker to buy a deal, like it's got to be it's got to be really good. Typically, we're buying stuff at either an 8% cap rate or above with some upside, or if it's less than an 8% cap rate, there's usually some type of benefit where, all right, there's room to double the facility there, or the facility is mismanaged, or there's some great seller financing. So we're usually picking the kind of the best deals, which is why we get such good returns on our stuff. Um, anything else you guys need? Also, look, if you guys have deals that you're working on and you just want somebody to kind of get a second eyes on it, a second pair of eyes on it. You want me or someone on my team to look at the deal and give you our assessment, so that way you make sure that you're not overpaying for something or getting yourself in a deal where it's not very good. Like, feel free to reach out. I'd love to help. If it's something that's quick where, yeah, I can look at it or talk to you for no more than a half hour, then that type of stuff, I do that at no charge. But if it's something where it's going to take up a significant amount of time, then I would charge. But if it's just looking at certain deals, I can usually look at something and underwrite it in like 15 to 20 minutes and get you guys some feedback. So keep that in mind as you're looking at stuff and you want a second pair of eyes to make sure that you don't get yourself in a bad deal. All right, guys, if there's no other questions, then that'll be it for today. I'll see you guys next week. Next week, again, we're gonna kick off our RV and boat storage month with Eric Neeson. He is one of the heads of Baja Carports, and they're probably one of the largest providers of those canopy storage facilities that you see out in the area. Then we'll have Devin after him, and then we'll kick it off, or we'll end with Scott Ramser. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for your time, and I will see you next week, Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific.